We have had everything on, just the microphones muted. So now everything is running.
They're on now? Yes. Welcome, everyone, to the regular meeting of the Bethel Planning Commission. My apologies. We had our city staff was ironing out a few logistic items. My name is Rob Malassi. I'm the chair of the meeting. Other Planning Commission members include to my immediate left, Mr. Matt Malozzi and Ms. Joy Cohen. We ask anyone in attendance today, silence your cell phones at this time. We'll proceed through today's projects as listed on the agenda. Applicant will have an opportunity to present their project to the commission as their agenda item is called. Following that presentation, city staff will provide an overview of the city's comments and a recommendation. Planning commission members will have a final opportunity to direct questions relating to the project, both to the applicant and city staff. Following planning commission discussion, any interested parties here in attendance today will have an opportunity to comment on or ask questions related to that project. We ask that you adhere to a 5-minute time limit. We do have a sign-in sheet here at the podium or at the desk. Please sign in with your name, address, and email for the record. And please avoid repeating previously made assertions or comments or questions. After all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, planning commission members will have a final opportunity to deliberate. The review of the planning commission is based on the provisions of the Salmo zoning ordinances and other municipal ordinances. Decisions will be based upon these recommendations of the city professional staff, pertinent public comment, and the public good. Our first agenda item, council, we will table to next month's meeting. We do not have enough a quorum to move on the minutes since we only had 3 members at that meeting and the third member is not in attendance. So our first agenda item is 1223 West Broad Street. Will the applicant please introduce yourself, and when you're ready, you may begin.
All right, Karen Andrews, a registered architect with BDA Architects located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'm here on behalf of the owner of the property, Juan Carlos Paredes Gomez.
Cody Callahan of Barry Ice Associates.
Okay. Yeah. Right. We're here proposing a 3-story apartment addition onto the back of a restaurant on the property of 1223 West Broad Street. This is in the commercial district, so multifamily housing is allowed in this area. The first floor will be approximately 900 square feet. It's mostly the stairs, the lobby, elevator, storage, and MEP space for the new addition. And then really the heart of it is on the second and the third floor, where we're building 6 apartment units, 4 2-bedroom and 2 1-bedroom apartments. One of them will be an ADA accessible unit, which will be on the second floor. The height is about 35 feet for most of it. We do have the stair tower that goes up a little bit higher at 41, which is under the allowable height of 5 stories or 60 feet in this area. We could have gone higher, but we also wanted to keep it what we felt made sense in this area. Again, this is in the commercial zone, but we do have residential behind us. So that's, again, really kind of the background of it. We do have the required parking. We do not need a variance at this time. We're under the impervious coverage, and also we comply with all the setbacks. Looking at kind of the history of the project, we did submit for a sketch plan review a little while ago. The design was well received. We've since made some changes to that design. Again, that one was a little bit more modern, had some more metallic elements. So again, just to fit in with the surrounding neighborhood, it is now mostly brick. A brick facade, and also the parking count originally was short. We did take away the seating that we were proposing for the rooftop. That brought down some of our counts, and we also were able to squeak an extra parking spot onto the site. So we have 31 required spots and 31 provided spots. Some of the other comments, again, just from the initial sketch plan, the fire department access has been coordinated between Barry Izett and your fire department. A Knox box was also mentioned. That's been located on the site plan as well, along with our architectural plans. The other comment was about sprinkler. The building will be sprinklered. And then all other drawings that were requested at that time have since been provided. So we did then resubmit in April of 2025 the land development plans. Barry Izett and ourselves submitted plans with that. We did receive comments back from that on May 13th. All those comments have since been addressed, resubmitted to the city, and then they were resubmitted on June 18th. Thankfully, you guys had a very fast review, so thank you. They came back on July 3rd with very, very minor comments, more administrative comments. So I don't know if you wanted me to go through those comments from here, the ones that are outstanding. So the first one was ordinance number 4342. The sanitary sewer tapping fee of just over $11,000 will need to be paid, so that we understand and will comply. That was the only sanitary engineering comment. The miscellaneous engineering comment was also about a stormwater escrow charge of $45.60 per square foot will be assessed, which again, the owner understands and will provide that. The Barry Izett did provide an opinion of probable costs that was submitted to the engineering bureau. So that was received, and again, no comments there. And then the city did provide on the plan, again, we gave them our plans and they marked up the street addresses for the units. So again, those will be added to the architectural plans, and we can certainly provide those numbers for the units. The only zoning comment was on sheet SP1, the dumpster enclosure note to replace a chain link with vinyl, which is understood and will revise. The next general recreation fee of $9,000 shall be paid. Again, that'll be paid and as understood by the owner. The project should comply with the goals and objectives of the city's climate action plan for safe walking and biking. And that is one of the comments that was on the original letter. We are adding a bike rack to the front of the building where there's easy access to it, and that will have a minimum of 2 bikes for that.
For that one too, then we have a note on the plans as well that the owner has to maintain and keep that bike rack there for as long as the projects or this building's there. So
basically everything Ms. Andrews on here, Mr. Callahan, your applicant's fine and complying with,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And I want to just let everyone know this was in front of us as a sketch plan review. As a matter of fact, there's another one on our agenda tonight, and we actually prefer that way. It helps a lot with the flow of the approval process, and hearing some of the comments that they had received at that sketch plan review, and now the changes, it makes things a lot smoother. So my one quick question, talk a little bit more about the facade, because I do remember it being a little bit more, like you said, a metallic kind of. So it's not right there, which Mr. Pfeiffer has up on the screen, all brick. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's all brick now, and it will kind of tie in again with the existing restaurant that's there is brick. It's a dark painted brick. We did include a rendering with the latest package if you do want to see the color and the materials.
Do we have that, Mr. Pfeiffer, online?
Yes.
Thank you.
There. So you can see the restaurant itself was painted a dark color and has some red accents due to the new name of the restaurant. So we kind of flipped that and have more of a white brick with some black accents, and then again tied in the red as well.
And that view right there, Miss Andrews, if I would be on, I believe, 12th Avenue,
Yes.
looking down that way.
Looking down, towards Broad Street. So really the northeast corner of the site.
Mr. Pfeiffer, anything to add from the July 3rd letter or anything else
I believe
for?
Ms. Andrews did an excellent job. As you can see, the letter is probably one of the cleanest. So kudos to the design team. There is a couple other items that I would point out. LVPC did provide a letter, as did the Environmental Advisory Council. Both are ostensibly referencing similar things. They talk about the LVPC letter, that the building is in a location ideal for mixed-use neighborhood, mixed-use type of development with a Atlanta bus line that does run by here, as well as infrastructure for pedestrian and bicycle access. They encourage some sustainability features, as does the EAC, so that's a good segue. EAC's typical comments are encouraging sustainable building materials and energy efficiency measures. They encourage the use of the CPACE program for financing of solar, energy efficiency, water conservation, air quality, and they call out 2 climate action plan items. One was for a sheltered bicycle parking if possible, and EV charging stations of up to 2 if possible. The last thing, if I mentioned this earlier, I'm going to just mention it again. They did request a waiver. That waiver the city supports. It's just to change the required scale of the drawing to 1 inch equals 20, which was makes it even more legible to read the plan. So we have no objection to that.
Right. Thank you. Any questions from any planning commission members for Ms. Andrews or Mr. Callahan at this time? No. Anyone in attendance have any comment or questions as it refers to the land development plan at 1223 West Broad? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Malozzi.
there's the land development application, and then there's also a waiver. Can those be handled in a single action, or should those be separate?
Why don't we do the waiver first?
Waiver request, okay. And just as a comment, if I may, wasn't really a question, that I believe this was originally a bank building way back.
Yes.
It's been a number of restaurants. Now it's becoming mixed use on a primary arterial, served by transit, sidewalks everywhere. So I would say this is the right place for this project, and it's good to see the investment made into an existing property. So we're not demolishing the existing structure, we're adding on to it. It's compliant with parking, impervious setbacks, and height, and a clean letter. So I applaud the applicant for coming in and sketch, as you said, hearing the comments, working with the staff here at the city, coming back with a clean letter and a project that is consistent with what the city, the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, and the EAC are asking for. So, with that, I'll make a motion to grant the requested waiver from section 134302G2A to permit the drawing scale of 1 to 20 for the project.
I'll second it. Roll, please.
Mr. Malosky.
Yes.
Mr. Malozzi.
Yes.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Waiver's been granted. Motion on the land development plan.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the land development application for 1223 West Broad Street, contingent upon meeting all of the conditions set forth in the city's July 3rd, 2025 review letter.
Motion made, Mr. Malozzi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Cohen. Roll, please.
Mr. Malosky.
Yes.
Mr. Malozzi.
Yes.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And best of luck moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Before we go to our second agenda item, and I'll allow the applicants to come up and get their things in order, I want to take a moment. I apologize. We had a little late start and did not get an opportunity to introduce our new planning director. This is Miss Kathy Fletcher. Kathy is coming from the New England area in Connecticut, but she is a Pennsylvania born and raised in the Mount Carmel area, right? And she has nothing to worry about other than the large shoes that she has to fill replacing Darlene Heller. But in all seriousness, we are very fortunate to have Kathy be part of our team. So welcome, Ms. Fletcher. Our next agenda item. We have a land development plan and a lot consolidation plan at 934, 946 Evans Street. Will the applicant introduce yourself, and when you're ready, you may begin.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jim Preston. I am the attorney for the applicant. I'll let these gentlemen introduce themselves. This is Mr. Dave Hitzel.
Yep.
Go ahead.
This is David Hitzel with H.H. Evans Street LLC, property owner.
Joseph Ngayo, Bustamante Engineers, civil engineer.
So this is a proposal for we'll call it an apartment building. And it's been before you before. You've seen this particular plan. When you saw it the first time, there was an obvious need for some zoning relief. And you quite properly instructed us to go get that relief. We did appear before the zoning hearing board. We were successful. We did get that relief. We have since received the city's review letter. We've made several revisions to the plans in accordance with that letter. However, this evening, what we'd like to do is to have you consider the plans that were submitted to the Planning Commission and review those in combination with the review letter that you received, and then we will hold off on any revisions that we may have made to those plans.
So, Mr. Piper, just so we're all on the same page, and Mr. Preston, I appreciate the explanation, and council, please feel free to jump in. What is in our packet is what they are presenting, or they are not. Help me out with this one there.
Yeah, so what was in your packet, everything but this document, which is the land development package, is applicable for this evening.
Okay.
This is to be replaced with the one that was placed at the dais for you
Right.
when you first got here. So this would be the set that's the appropriate set to review.
So the one that was in the packet
Correct.
is not.
It's
And I'm emphasizing this so we're all on the same page. I don't want there to be any confusion. I appreciate it, Mr. Preston, but I just want to make sure that's all clear.
if I can make just one other clarification,
please.
just in case. When you look at the title block for Bustamante Engineers, you want to make sure that the drawing date is March 26, 2025, and not July 8th, 2025.
The drawings pulled up are the incorrect ones, so.
And so I guess the point is that
So this is-
if you take the March 8th plans and you pair those with the engineer's review letter, that will take you to what we expect to be the finished product.
Planning Commission are we understood on that?
You meant to say March 26th, I believe.
Yes.
Good. All right,
That gets you to the
we
finished
have that out of
product.
the way.
That's where we're heading.
Go ahead, Mr. Preston. Sorry.
Okay?
Appreciate the clarification.
You got it. So
7-1.
having said that, and having looked at the review letter, other than there are two waivers that we would ask you if you'd be so kind to act on those this evening. But other than that, everything that's in that review letter is a will comply item. We don't have any issues with the suggestions, requirements, statements, and so forth that are contained in the review letter. We do require two saldo waivers. Maybe I'll have the engineer, if you want to explain
Yes.
what
so-
those are.
On the agenda
Pull up
page.
the exact numbers here. So the two waivers we were asking for, 134908 and 134808 F2 are, yes,
Were these supplied beforehand?
sorry,
The waiver request?
yes.
Yes.
They're in your packet.
Yep.
It's a letter that looks like this. Mhm.
Yes.
All right,
And again,
from-
going
from
off the
today.
March 26 drawing. So the two waivers we were asking are in regards to the foundation planning and buffer yards. The buffer yards, we already had zoning hearing board grant the variance for our side yard setbacks as well. So we have about a 1 foot side yard on each. So we have no room for any sort of plantings or buffers on the sides there. We do meet in the front though. We will have that entire triangle in the front will be landscaped grass areas. There is a bunch of landscaping that will be proposed in the front there as well. And then on the parking lot side, we have 3 islands but we are slightly under the 10% requirement for the landscaping. We're at about 9-ish%, but that was the absolute max we could squeeze out of it and still meet all our parking. We've optimized that, spent many hours trying to squeeze a little more, but that's the best we can do. So we have 3 landscaping areas, 2 in the front, 1 in the rear. All will have landscaping, as per the city's requirements, but we are slightly underneath the 10%. So we are asking for a waiver for that. It's just on the 1004. Again, on the main building lot, 934-946, we do meet the 10% with at the front there. There's also some in the back, but we have enough in the front there to meet the 10% requirement.
Mr. Pfeiffer, anything from the city in reference to those waivers?
Just some points of clarification, and it wasn't clear to me at first, but is now, I believe the applicant would concur that there is an ability to put landscaping between the front facade of the building and the front lot line, and that would achieve foundation plantings, at least for that facade, and the 10% requirement, and that the parking lot gets close, as he stated in his comments, gets close to 9%. The city would be amenable then to the waivers for both requested items.
You're fine with
Yes,
everything?
that's exactly
That's
correct.
aligned,
Yes.
yep.
Mr. Preston, this was in front of us before for a sketch plan review as well.
Yes, it was.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the letter, and again, I understand there was a little bit of a mix up there. Very lengthy in terms of some of the comments. So before, I know you had mentioned that your applicant would be fine complying with everything. Mr. Pfeiffer, is there anything else you need to add from that May 21st?
If you would
letter?
like, Mr. Chairman, I can go through and just highlight some of the key
Highlight,
components
yeah,
of the letter.
Yes.
Yeah. And you are correct. In 2024, they did come before the Planning Commission with a sketch submission. Under Public Works Engineering, few of the bigger items would be the obvious requirement to provide a legal description and exhibit for the meets and bounds of the consolidated parcel. That the drawings be updated with city-issued concrete curb, gutter, and sidewalk construction details, driveway and apron construction details. That the species of trees must be approved by the city forester, and those trees would be selected from the approved city tree list. From the fire marshal, there is confirmation from the engineer that all fire department vehicles will have the required turning space to access all areas, and that the applicant would submit turning plans. In addition, they would submit another turning plan to show that both the Bethlehem Fire Department Ladder 2 turning performance can be met and Bethlehem Fire Department Engine Number 1 turning performance can be met. That also that the engineer confirmed that all fire department apparatus will be able to drive on all road surfaces without contacting any driving surface. Under zoning, there's just a clarification for building height where it appears that the drawings from the engineering section on site data conflict with the building drawings from the architect, and that be clarified. Under landscaping, goes back to our waiver request that just the applicant understand that between the front facade and the front lot line of the building, that is landscaped with vegetative ground cover and shrubs as approved by the city forester, and not to include hardscape. And that is also reiterated, bless you, it's also reiterated under the general comment number 4. And finally, there are comments from the EAC and from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. They are pretty much what was commented on our previous case, that the applicant is doing quality infill on a site that is currently vacant, that it is within close proximity to transportation as well as the Bethlehem Greenway. Under the EAC, again, recommending sustainable building materials, energy efficient measures, also referencing the CPACE program for financing for solar, increased energy efficiency, water conservation, and indoor air quality, as well as the recommendation for sheltered bicycle parking and EV charging.
Thank you, Mr. Piper. Anything else?
Nothing. Thank you.
Maybe the applicant, and Craig, if you don't mind, if we have a rendering or an elevation that we can see. One of the things that we might have talked about this at the sketch plan review. Tell me about the facade. Is it brick? Is it vinyl? Is it what? I know that was one item I believe that was discussed in terms of trying to conform with the surroundings in that neighborhood.
Yeah, so the intention on the facade is we're going to do hardy fiber cement, a combination of plank or board, depending on the location. I think the color rendering we presented, I believe, the sketch review, like a darker gray color, and then we'll look to match the foundation. So it's mostly like a darker gray, black accent throughout. But we tried to keep both the color scheme, the kind of plank design of it to somewhat sync up as much as possible with the surrounding buildings. So mostly brick aged, older buildings around there. So we were really being more mindful with the height and just making sure from both north to south, east to west, we kind of stayed in accordance with height of neighboring buildings. So there's nothing over towering, over leaning to attempt to get it to fit there nicely.
And if I may, just a
Yes,
clarification, this is an elevation drawing, so it appears as if everything is in the same plane.
Right.
The first three floors are what would be closest to the street, to Evans Street. That top floor is pushed toward the back or the southern part of the building.
Right.
Yeah, because the elevation there, it's about a 15% grade on hill.
I remember.
So it's essentially 3-story and 3-story at essentially more or less the midpoint of that elevation. Yeah.
So from Evan Street, you will not see that 4th-story from Evan Street. There's no sight line. The 4th-story is not visible at all from Evans in the front of the building. It's so far back, the height, the angle, you cannot see it.
So the items that Mr. Pfeiffer highlighted, along with everything else from that May 21st memo, Mr. Preston, your applicant you're willing to comply with
Oh, yes, absolutely.
everything.
Jim, you want me to talk through the fire? So we do have, going through, so the public works 1 through 5, address and comply. Number 6, we acknowledge the tapping fees that would be due there. We do have the DEP mailer finalized and submitted. We are waiting on PINDY review for Game and Fish Commission. They have to respond back due to the nearby river and I think a falcon concern. So we shared that information, just waiting on those letters back. Traffic, we will address 1 and 2. Forestry, address 1 through 3 with a note of number 3, the buffers where applicable, pending the waiver sought for the foundation plantings on the side yard and the under 10% on the 1004 lot. Fire, number 1 is addressed with comments being, we've been in conversation and discussion with Fire Marshal. So the BFD engine 1, which is the smaller truck, the primary ask was ensuring we can accommodate that truck accessing the rear driveway behind the building, which we did. We adjusted the building to ensure that we can meet turning radius and the truck can access all 4 sides of the building. BFD ladder 2, the ask was to outline and show the turning radius of the surrounding streets neighboring for access to the building. So we did detail and show that. We'll submit that with the final submission. What it shows, I believe, and Joseph can clarify as well, is it can work. However, nearby blocks would require street parking to be eliminated. So current public street parking, including I think a handicap spot or 2, to make the turning radius. The alternate would be an alternate path. I think it's another 2 or 3 blocks to come down Evans Street. And to meet from the initial sketch review plan, we did work with Fire Chief to ensure that we're doing reinforcement on the front sidewalk. We worked with Forestry to document that we will do a reduced height street tree to enable the ladder truck to park on the sidewalk and extend the ladder apparatus out to be able to reach and extend at and above the building roof line there. So the only challenge was the ladder truck navigating essentially down State Street and making the turn onto Evans or navigating from 3rd Street to Evans.
Mr. Pfeiffer, city's aware of that in reference to the ladder truck.
I was not aware of that, so I wouldn't be able to confirm either way if the applicant has resolved
I
these
spoke with
issues.
the fire marshal. He asked me to provide the plan. I will provide, again, they asked specifically to come up Third Street, then turn right on the State, right to Evans, starting at almost the bank there at the corner.
But if there's a car there, is that what you're
So
saying?
the existing streets are already extremely narrow, though, State. It's a two-way there, but it's very narrow, and there's parking on both sides currently allowed, and there's a handicap there. So even a normal passenger car can barely make the turn there because between the parking spots is only about 16 feet of road, and it's supposed to be 2 lanes. So the existing road with parking is already so narrow. So if we show it, we can get the turning radius to work, but it hits some of those parking spots. Without that, so if we want to be able to, if we put on Google Earth, it'll be a little more clear. So if we go up north a little bit, please. So they asked us to check a little more north, actually, the next street. They asked us to check coming down Third there, making a right onto State, and then a right into our building. So you can see where the word State Street there is.
Right.
That is a 2-lane road with parking on both sides, and it is not nearly wide enough the existing road. The rest of State Street is a 1-way, for example, and the road is even narrower there, and it's two-way. And that white car on the left, right below the word State, that's a handicap spot for, I'm guessing, that homeowner. So the truck can make that turn if those pretty much all those spots on State Street are turned into a fire lane and removed. If not, it's not possible to make that turn with anything larger than a passenger vehicle. Even a smaller fire truck is, again, it's so narrow in there and the next block up. Once we get to Evans and in front of our building, we have no problem, but it's the next block up.
Yeah.
And then you're right. So the other option is if we zoom way out, they'd have to come down Evans. And the way to get on Evans, you'd have to go down a couple blocks and get onto Evans. Or when I spoke to the fire marshal, he mentioned that if they ever needed to do that, they would just come up Evans the wrong way for 1 block, and that's how they would most likely access the building if we couldn't get it to work the turning. But he asked me to at least show it on the resubmission so they can at least see it. So we will be submitting the whole block area showing the turning radiuses and showing where we have interference.
So you're continuing dialogue with our
Yes,
fire
yeah,
department
yeah. He understood.
to
He
make
knew-
sure this is
Yes,
addressed.
his dialogue, and he admitted that he made that comment, but he knew it was going to be difficult for the big truck in general because of the existing street conditions.
You can continue with your other
Perfect.
items you wanted to cover.
Yep. So the remaining fire items 2 through 7, those would be addressed to comply. Zoning 1 through 4, we would address comply. Number 5, the height will include a narrative, Craig, to your note regarding the height and discrepancy there to clarify. And then 6 through 11 would all be addressed as well to comply. Under general, item number 1, the recreation fee, we acknowledge and understand that payment would be due. 2 through 3 would be addressed to comply. 4 is the requested variance that we mentioned regarding the side yard and foundation planning, the waivers. If you need additional insight, I'm happy to provide it beyond the narrative we sent or talk through it this evening. 5 through 11 would all be addressed. And then item number 12 regarding affordable housing, we talked about at the initial sketch review, as well as our zoning hearing, and happy to talk through again today. The short of that is we've continued to do the math around the feasibility, and we look at the 2024, 2025 fair market rent values for affordable housing versus simply the cost of operating even. We are at a substantial loss per unit for affordable, so much so that it essentially eliminates any margin that we would have on non-affordable units, which puts the project feasibility at question and most likely unable to finance through any banking partner without an above and beyond capital investment. And even at that point there, we're essentially either loss or at best case break even.
Anything else to add, Mr. Pfeiffer?
Nothing from
Any questions or comments from the planning commission at this time? Ms. Cohen, yes.
A question for our attorney, Deschler.
Sure.
Regarding the lot consolidation, there's multiple lots and one is across the street in the parking lot. How is that legally connected if we should approve the project so that the parking stays with the building?
I'm
Yeah, I
able
can-
to help you with that.
I have it here too, Jim. If you like. Yeah, so with the lot at 1004 Evans, so the way we are ensuring that that stays connected is it'll be a single lot but permanently deeded as part of the subdivision with the primary lot as a dedicated parking area. And that's following under RT zoning SE special exception use request, which we presented through zoning board as well and on the sketch review. So the parking lot basically is a principal use for the multifamily unit. That use is allowed under the district regulations for.
Hold on 1 second. What's going to happen is there's going to be a covenant recorded with the deed to the parking lot,
Thank you.
which connects it to the permitted use on the other lot. They'll be connected by recorded documents.
Thank you, Mr.
I assume it's not actually a consolidation of the lot across the street then, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's correct. Yes.
All right.
It's a separate lot, separate parcel that is allowed to be used for parking by special exception under the zoning ordinance. And I think the question is, well, how can we guarantee that that stay that way? And that's done by a recorded covenant that connects the two. And I believe the covenant is in perpetuity unless until the use is discontinued. The apartment use. If it becomes a warehouse or what, God knows what in the future, then that is no longer.
So our task is land development and lot consolidation and including a recorded covenant for the adjacent lot
Yes.
1004.
Yes.
Is that the right?
Yep.
Okay.
1004.
I screwed up the date. I don't want to screw up the
I can't hear.
parcel number.
That's all.
I mean, essentially, it's just a land development of two parcels that we are not really consolidating. We're kind of.
Well, I think
So the
Main lot
existing,
in
the
some
main
way.
lot is already is 3 parcels currently.
there is a lot consolidation.
On which side? I mean,
The left side.
934 to
Left side.
946.
That's
It's
that's the lot consolidation.
Yes, that's correct.
from
Yep.
3 to
Mhm.
1.
That's the actual lot consolidation.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that the adjacent lot 1004 being across the street was tied to this
Yeah.
residential building, providing the parking that's required for that.
So it doesn't turn into a 7-Eleven at some point.
Yeah.
And I think when the time comes, if we act in that, we may need to make sure that's clarified with the covenant in the motion. That's all.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Malozzi,
Does that comment appear in the letter, a reference to the covenant, or that would have to be separately identified?
I believe it's not in the letter, so I would say it would have to be separately.
It is in the written decision from the zoning hearing board that references.
Which we have in our packet.
Okay.
October 28th, 2024, that zoning?
October 20th, 2024. That's correct.
That was one of the conditions of the special exception that allowed us to put the parking there.
Counselor, anything else? You have any other
Where does it
questions?
say that in the special exception?
If you go to findings of fact, it's addressed under item number 4, page 6, where it talks about what the applicant is proposing to construct at the 934, 946 Evans Street property, and that the utilization of 1004 Evans Street portion would be for tenant parking for that property.
Page number, Mr. Pfeiffer?
It's page 6.
Thank you.
It's a finding of fact as to what they're seeking.
And then under the nature of relief sought,
Normally, I would look at the conclusions of law, and for example, and see some kind of condition in there. And that's
I don't see that either.
look. I just have a question on the buffering issue, Craig. I can't tell from the zoning decision because nothing's really referenced about the nature of the relief, but are we saying that they don't need to have a buffer where they're talking about?
The zoning hearing board waived that requirement for buffering of multifamily structures when they're adjacent
Yeah.
to single family.
It's in the Exhibit A. We outline, I think the very last page of that, we outline the relief sought. And there's a summary for both of those items. So it's essentially the third to last item and the last item are 134908C, 134908F2, and then 134908F1. So there's the last three items there.
I mean, the zoning hearing board decision seems to incorporate by reference a lot of these variances requested that are attached as an exhibit to the last page of the decision. So I take it that, and this is in the zoning ordinance, 1318.23L, there's a requirement for an 8-foot buffer strip at public streets and parking lots. Craig? Yeah?
Correct.
Okay. And they got just a blanket variance from that? I don't see anything, I don't see anything saying like they have to put like 7 feet of buffering or whatever. It just, there's no buffering needed, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So just, one of the saldo waivers you're seeking, right, is for 1349.08C,
Correct.
which is just,
The planting requirements in those buffer yards.
but you don't have to do any kind of buffering at all, right?
Right, so there's nowhere to plant.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the language here is landscape screens or buffer yards shall consist of evergreen trees and or evergreen shrubs, for example, blah, blah, blah. That presupposes that will be a buffer, right? So you don't need to put a buffer at all, correct?
Right. And just to note too, we do have on the parking lot side, both properties have a retaining wall that goes up to 8 feet in height. That will also act as a natural buffer, so you won't be able to see headlights, things like that. In the residential properties, it'll also act as a buffer as well.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying, I'm not sure you need a waiver at all. If the waiver is, I mean, essentially, the waiver would be for things like, if you wanted to plant different evergreen trees or shrubs, but you don't need to plant any kind of shrubs because you got a blanket waiver from the zoning hearing board, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And then, sorry.
No, this is, Counselor, I'm glad you mentioned it. So we don't necessarily then have to act on granting them a waiver since in essence they already got it from zoning
That would be my,
Well, the zoning can't
for the
really
buffer yards.
waive a saldo provision.
but I guess, but the saldo provision isn't about putting anything in a buffer yard, just saying if you have a buffer yard, you got to plant these kind of trees, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's not, and I think we articulated that at some point, that it's not so much applicable to 1349.08C buffer yards, but that it was more 1349.08 F2, the 10% area of approved plantings and foundation plantings, as it pertains to the parking lot requirement. The applicant has concurred and agreed to provide that 10% for the lot that's going to contain the dwellings.
So the F1 and F2 waivers just apply to the parking lot parcel.
No, so yeah, so F1, we noted the parking lot 1004 Evans, so 1,234.7 square feet landscape requirement. We can meet 1,004 square feet, so shy, but you said about 9%. And then the 934 Evans, we would meet the F1 10% in the front only. So we noted that because there's a requirement for side foundation shrub plantings, which again, when we submitted, the building layout does not allow for those foundation shrub plantings, so they would not be applicable.
All right, so the waiver you're seeking for 1349.08 F1 is that on 1004 Evans, actually, the saldo, I guess, requires 1,234.7 square feet landscaping, and you're proposing 1,004 square feet, right?
Correct.
That's the
Correct.
extent of your waiver or modification, right?
Correct.
Which is under the 10%.
Right, okay.
Percent.
And then for the Evans Street lot, the 934,946, I guess, what would that 10% actually require?
F1, right? That's what we're saying. It's not in.
Yeah, that's not in here.
Okay.
We didn't request a waiver for that.
Evans,
F2 is all we're worried about.
Yeah, for the review letter, it was F2 and C. So 139.
The F1 had to do with zoning. For in terms of saldo, there are two provisions in play. 134908C, and then I think what you're looking at is 134908F2.
I'm looking at the exhibit with the waivers listed in
No,
there.
That was an attachment. That's an exhibit to the zoning hearing board decision. Yeah, the two saldo,
It's in tonight's as well.
Oh, did you guys submit that in there?
we did the full code, but in the narrative references specifically the 134908C and 134908F2 in response to the review letter. The review letter only asked for requests on those two items.
I'm sorry if that's confusing, Matt, but we're not asking for a waiver from all of these requirements. A lot of these are zoning requirements.
Bro, but 1349.08F1 is a saldo provision. Are
Right.
you,
Yes, that's correct.
okay. But it seems like, at least for the 1004 Evans Street lot, you do need a waiver or a modification from that, right? If you're saying it requires 1,234.7 square feet of landscaping and you're proposing only 1,004, right? You do need a,
We would, yeah.
okay. And how about for the 934-946 Evans lot?
That one meets the 10% in the front yard.
Okay. So you're saying, okay, so you're listing what you're going to propose 1,945 square feet, and that's in excess of whatever the 10% is, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is all listed on the letter, the memo, under general comments number 4, Attorney Desher. It's all, it did come up in the sketch plan review. I remember, obviously we didn't act on it then. We were just giving comments. So we just wanted to clarify that's something separate. Attorney Desher, we should act on separately, I would assume, last, if we're putting together an order. Yeah, sounds like it. Do you have any other questions? While Attorney Desher is still examining, Mr. Malozzi has a few more questions here. Mr. Malozzi.
I was wondering if the applicant could talk a little bit about parking and access. We talked about access for the fire apparatus, but just general vehicular access to the site and parking accommodations for it.
Yep. So the access to the parking lots, so the Evans Street lot, just right at, we would access through Evans.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's accessing through, in and out through Evans.
Frank,
as a-
go
as
to
one of-
Google.
Yeah. So you'll see the second turn in there.
There.
Yeah. So closest to Ridge Street is your entry where that curb cut will be. And essentially it is a U back around up towards that would be the west side, right? Northeast, east side of Evans Street. And we shift the exit so that there was sight triangle and safe exit from that lot. And then the parking 10 spaces behind the building would be accessible via, it is Ridge Street. So Ridge Street today is a 2-way. No parking is technically allowed. People park there, but no parking is allowed. So they would access it via Ridge Street and then would exit out onto State Street.
And the other lot access is all from,
Yeah, it's a one-way. Ridge and State are both one-ways, and our back parking lot is a one-way.
but the 1004 lot that's
Only accessible via Evans.
Evans. Okay.
Yep. So you would drive up 3rd and either turn at that triangle there or come down from Mechanic or an alternate street, Hall Street, and access it that way.
You're replacing sidewalks around both
Yep.
parcels. Thank you.
All right, on the 1349.08 F2 waiver, right? So we're only doing that with the lot on the left, right? Because that's the one with the multifamily.
Correct. It's not applicable to the right.
Right. So, and on that, we're just looking for a waiver of all the requirements, right? or is there some degree of?
Side, wasn't it side?
Side.
There is nowhere to plant. It's all
The side.
sidewalk and curb.
They exceed the 10% in the front, and the sides, there is no.
Just concrete and curb sidewalk. Yeah.
I'm good.
Any other comments, questions, planning commission members? Anyone here in attendance have any questions or comments as it pertains to the land development at Emmons Street? Okay, Counselor, I would, with this being a land development plan, a lot consolidation subdivision, and the waivers, is it safe to say that from an order standpoint, should we do the waivers last, knowing that the land development plan is voted on prior to? Because the land development plan, if it's not approved, the waivers don't really mean anything anyway, correct?
I think similar to
The
the last
order?
time, we would do the waivers, the modifications first. And then you would approve the land development plan with the waivers.
Understood. Understood. Yes, you're right. You're right. So we're now going to entertain a motion for the waivers in reference to section 1349.08C, the buffer yards, and 1349.08F2, the landscaping percentage. Entertain a motion for the waivers.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the requested waivers. I'll repeat the sections, section 1349.08C regarding buffer yards and section 1349.08F2 regarding the foundation plantings.
Motion made for the waivers by Mr. Malozzi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Cohen.
Apparently they need one for the F1 as well.
For the parking lot for 1004.
1349.
Yeah, from the discussion we had. Yeah.
The waiver is to have 1,004 square feet of lot landscape.
Noted.
May I amend my motion?
Mr. Malozzi can amend your motion. Mr. Pfeiffer, if we can get this down, go ahead.
I'd like to add to my motion approval of the requested waiver of section 1349.08F1.
Along with it. Second,
Second.
Ms. Cohen.
Ms.
Roll, please.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Malozzi,
Yes.
Mr. Malosky.
Yes. I'll now entertain a motion in reference to the council. You want to put the subdivision and the land development all in one,
That's fine.
so we can do it all together.
And may I ask, address the covenant in the
Yeah, I
motion?
think that's
Correct.
expressly spelled out. in the-
Yes, please add that to your motion.
I'd like to make.
Mr. Malozzi.
I'll make a motion to approve the land development application, including lot consolidation for 934th, 946, and 1004 Evans Street, contingent upon meeting all of the conditions set forth in the May 21st, 2025 city review letter, and including recording of a covenant acceptable to the city memorializing the use of 1004 Evans Street as parking, serving the proposed use of 934 and 946 Evans Street per the zoning hearing board decision of October 28th, 2024.
Motion made, Mr. Malozzi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Cohen. Roll, please.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Malosky,
Yes.
Mr. Malozzi.
Yes.
Thank you. Really appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
back, and best of luck moving forward.
Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
commission's time. Thank you so much.
Our last agenda item is a sketch plan review at 241 8th Avenue. We'll give the applicant a moment to get their stuff squared away. When you are ready, you may introduce yourself and begin.
That's all I got. Thanks.
That was the easy. That was the easy one. I remember when it came in, that was kind of awkward.
Yeah.
What else you do?
Yeah, putting back in productive use.
Welcome. When you're ready to introduce yourself, you may begin. Thank you so much.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Victor Scamilio here on behalf of the applicant. I have the applicant here and a representative from the engineering firm who submitted this sketch plan.
After Christmas? Martin Zaworski. Martin Zaworski, owner of the property.
And Lou Rock from Lehigh Engineering.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before you begin, I mentioned this earlier in the meeting tonight because our first agenda item actually came in for a sketch plan review, which is what the gentlemen here are doing, and we prefer it that way. But I just want to remind everyone, a sketch plan review is not a land development plan review. In other words, we're going to be providing comments, input, allow members in attendance to provide comments, input, so that as they progress with the process, any input we provide, they can change their final plan. So we prefer all projects to come to us that way. All too often they don't, but the ones that do tend to go a lot smoother. So I want to commend you for coming in tonight. With that said, you may begin.
Sure. The sketch plan submitted for review includes the construction of a 6-unit apartment building on 8th Avenue. It complies and actually has more than sufficient parking in the rear to relieve stress from the parking on the streets. We understand and note the zoning relief that would be requested. I believe it is now scheduled for the July 23rd zoning hearing meeting. I just put everyone on notice. I will be seeking a continuance of that due to my lack of availability. I will write to Mr. Taylor noting the extension of any MPC time requirements in the request for a continuance. But with that, I will turn it over to the applicant and the engineer.
This is a property that I bought roughly 6 months ago. And since that, we designed the building, came up with a plot plan that meets all your requirements. Yes, there are a couple issues. It's a little bit of a challenging lot because of slopes, but it's a very doable building and project that I believe will fit in nicely with the neighborhood.
Mr. Zaworski, did you submit a rendering to the city for review so we could put that up maybe?
They have the plans
Right.
of that are pretty close, but I do have a color rendering.
And it, just for the boards.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Scamilio.
And the public, I can put this up here for you guys to see, and after a couple minutes, I'll turn it
Sure.
to public so that they can.
6 total, Mr.
Yes.
And the materials that are shown in this rendering is what you plan on utilizing for the building?
Absolutely, yes.
You don't mind if you don't want to show. Thank you, Mr. Yes, please.
From the drawing you had, the only changes that were made was the center portion was made wider. And that was to meet your requirement for having a certain percentage of the front done in a natural material besides siding, and it's stone. So I wanted to hit the numbers that you were looking for. So I made that wider, and the drawing shown has a what's called a hip roof, whereas on the plan that the rendering that is shown, that was just shown to you, it's a gable roof.
So a combination of the facade of what appeared to be a stone type of product with a vinyl kind of appearance, correct?
Yes, stone goes in the center section, and then on the, let's call it the two wings, to the right and the left, it goes up to the bottom of the second floor window.
Up to
And-
the bottom of the second floor window is stone.
Yes, it's stone, and stone will be carried around exposed foundation on the sides and follow the slope of the land.
Can we pull up the overall lot, and can you talk, Mr. Zirinsky, a little bit about Zawarski about parking?
Initially, I had a plot plan prepared where the building was moved back and parking was in front. And then I was told by the engineer that if there is an alley, it's a requirement by you to use that alley to access parking. So, we pulled the building to the front, put in the required parking, and the parking meets your requirement, although there is one issue with the parking in that it encroaches on the side yard setback by 5 feet on each side. But with putting the amount of plantings as I placed, and I think there's a comment that they're too close, that they want them at 30 inches, which, I could understand. That's giving an extra buffer to the neighboring properties.
Is that something, Mr. Scamilio, that you plan on addressing with zoning, or is that, you had mentioned your zoning?
The side yard is addressed in the zoning appeal. Yes.
There are only two items that I need relief from with zoning. One is the distance from the property line to the edge of the parking, the buffer yard, and also the buffer yard between, I meet the buffer requirements from the property line to the building, but in this zone, you're requiring a 90-foot lot. The lot is only 80 feet, but I'm adhering to the setbacks as requested by your zoning.
The building
rules.
meets it, the parking just can't meet it because your depth of your parking stalls plus your aisle lane put us to the point that we need relief on the parking lot where we don't need it for the building.
And that's also part of your appeal, Mr. Scamilli.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the size of each unit in terms of bedrooms, etc.
The building's going to be 3 stories, 2 units per floor. The units are going to be about 1,300 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it's served by a center hallway that's in the front. That serves all 3 floors. There was a comment made about staggering the height of the building, but with the dimensional restraints that I had of only being able to build a building 50 feet in width, that's kind of impossible to do. And it's like this building was custom made for this lot. When I told a good friend of mine, who's also in the business, that I acquired this piece, the first words out of his mouth was, "I have the perfect building for this." And this is a building that has been built in the city over a half a dozen times. So you've probably seen this building several times in the last couple of years. And then it'll have a basement, And in the basement will be a room for the sprinkler system for each unit, for water distribution, electric distribution, having the breaker panels down there, also gas, and then there'll be storage areas, probably caged, metal cage, for the tenants. And the reason for the metal cage is because you don't want tenants putting things in there that maybe you don't want. Whereas as a metal cage, you know, you'd always have view as to, you should be able to view typically what is in there.
So mainly storage is.
Yeah, yes, totally storage.
Mr. Pfeiffer, is there anything from the July 3rd that you want to point out in reference to comments from the city staff, in particular number 4, if you want to explain that in a little bit detail?
Certainly. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go a little bit backwards on this.
Sure.
Just like to point out, whenever we have sketch plans, that as a sketch plan submission, no formal action is required by the Planning Commission, but that since this qualifies for site plan review under 132203 ZZ6, that you can make recommendations to the zoning hearing board based on the required relief for this project. Those 2 items, just to be specific, are a dimensional variance for lot width where 90 feet is required, 80 feet is existing, and a dimensional variance to reduce the width of the buffer yard adjacent to a single-family detached dwelling where 15 feet is required and 10 feet is proposed. Comments 2, 3, and 4 all go together on the first page of this letter. When looking at the context of the neighborhood, we don't have 3-story buildings in this neighborhood. We do have a certain amount of 2-story, and they range from singles to twins to row homes. The second part is the topography, and we actually reference the site topography, saying that at one point, the highest, it's at 309 feet, and it drops down to 294 feet. And therefore, based on those, to minimize the visual impact, and this is something we've done with other projects that have gone before you, that the 3-story structure with a gabled roof and extensive retaining walls, the applicant should consider stepping the foundation so that the southern half of the structure is 1/2 story below the northern half of the structure, and that the applicant should consider modifying the roof form to lower its height. You may recall we've had other developers, probably one of which provided these plans because they look very much the same as other projects you've seen before you, where they have reduced voluntarily the floor-to-floor heights, and they reduced voluntarily the truss of the roof to decrease the overall height, so it didn't have a impact as great upon particularly the houses that are located to the south of this parcel.
Could I reply to those comments?
Yes, Mr. Zaworski.
If you look at the block that this exists on, starting at Lehigh Street and then going up to the next cross street, I'm not sure the name. There are a total of 20 houses on one side, 18 on the other, 38 total homes. Of those 38 homes, 10 homes are 3 stories high. In addition, there are 15 homes in this same block that have 3rd floor living space built into, let's say, the attic, where in the roof structure they have dormers built, but it is livable area on the 3rd floor. So that works out to 62.5% of the homes in there have 3 stories of living area.
So just a point of clarification, and Mr. Zaworski, the applicant, probably doesn't know the zoning ordinance to the detail, whereas we refer to these as 2.5-story structures, and then there's a calculation for how much of that half story can actually be occupied space. So I suspect that Mr. Zaworski is looking at this as a 3-story structure, whereas we look at it as a 2.5, hence that's how it's referenced in the letter. We certainly wouldn't debate whether that's occupied space. Obviously, there are people that occupy that space. And then if you like, there are a couple highlights in the letter whenever you're ready.
Please.
And I am aware of the party you're talking about and reducing each floor level from 9 feet to 8 feet. And I'd be willing to do that. Also to maybe take away the impact of the immense roof area, instead of building a gable roof, which is shown on my rendering, I would be willing to do a hip roof, as you brought up on the plans. Gable roofs are simpler. There's less waste of material. It's a more efficient system to put together for the framers. The hip roof, there'll be an additional cost, but you know that I'm okay with that.
And you're open-minded as we continue discussion, as you continue discussion with our city staff to possibly comply to some of the input that
The only thing that I'm not aware of is what slope did they put on the roof? Do you know what that number is? Because I have designed a 6 pitch.
I do not know that off the top of my head, but as we continue our dialogue, I'll be happy to share.
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Look that up. My roots are, I'm a builder. We've built homes since 1960, and that's my forte, and that's what I do.
Mr. Zaworski, anything else you want to add in reference to your sketch plan review here for our group?
Yes, but I thought we'd address them as you're going down your list.
Is there anything else you have to address from the list?
I'll just summarize the letter, if you don't mind. In the beginning of these letters as sketch plans, there's oftentimes not enough information for a thorough review by all city bureaus. So some of these comments are standard comments, particularly under stormwater engineering, sanitary engineering, and miscellaneous engineering. These are basic comments that you'll see on every review letter. Under electrical, the city electrician's looking for a photometrics plan to understand light levels and any potential for light spill. The traffic superintendent was requesting that trip generation calculations be provided. I suspect with a 6 unit, they're not going to be required to do a traffic study. So that's just a box that they'll need to check as they make their next submission. Perhaps most critical is under forestry. And the city forester under comment number 1 does note in the saldo the desire for preserving existing trees and shrubs, and that there is a 34-inch diameter willow tree near the northwest corner of the subject parcel, and expresses that the applicant should explore all options to prevent disturbance within the drip line of this tree, and also suggests that the applicant work with a licensed arborist and the city forester to find best management practices for how to address this tree. Further comment on that is under zoning item number 1. I'll get to that in a second. The recycling team just did not understand how recycling and trash collection would be handled. That's another general comment that we get for sketch plans. The fire marshal had their basic comments similar to the case we just heard, that turning, radiuses can be accommodated, that the 24-foot minimum width aisle is accommodated. If the building is sprinklered, and we just found out from the applicant it will be, then there needs to be FDC connections identified, and that apparatus does not contact any driving surface as it approaches the subject parcel. To go back to the city forester, which is supplemented by zoning comment number 1, the applicant did mention that they actually exceed their minimum required off-street parking. They're proposing 11 where 9 would be required. It is suggested that they consider eliminating 1 or 2 spaces nearby that willow tree so as to limit its disturbance. There's also a comment under 7 for details of the retaining wall, which I'm sure the applicant will provide once they further engineer them, indicating what type of material will be used and that they provide top and bottom elevations. And under general, the There does not appear to be access, and this may be just a matter of placing a sidewalk that would allow guests and tenants who park in the rear to access the front of the building. That the applicant coordinate final species, quantity, and spacing with the city forester. This goes to their landscaping plan where they identify quite a bit of different types of landscaping to create buffers on either side, both side lot lines. And that appears like that spacing is a little too close for things like green giants, and that they work with the city forester so that what is planted has an opportunity to grow healthy over time. Lastly, we indicate that vegetative ground cover should be used on all surfaces and that hardscape should only be used where it is necessary, such as nearby retaining walls.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeiffer. Mr. Zawarski or Mr. Scamilli, if you
Sure,
want.
if I could just address the concern from the forester regarding the parking spaces. This becomes the push-pull of the forester's concern for the willow tree, which will not be disturbed during this development. That tree is not on Mr. Zawarski's property, and he will do what he can to assure that it's not disturbed. But if we reduce the number of spots in the back, then the question comes in as to others parking on the street and what that does for the surrounding neighbors. The parking was designed to relieve the stress of other vehicles on that street from the current neighbors on the road. My client has noticed that while this property has been vacant, the street parking has encompassed and covered his area where his property is. So I think that there is a genuine concern about the stress on the streets versus the stress on the tree, and how do we balance that? I understand the minimum requirement that the zoning ordinance has. There is no prohibition if you can offer additional parking to alleviate that parking stress. And if Mr. Zawarski wants to add.
Yeah, I'm sure all the neighbors that are here could attest to that, the area in front of this house, there's always cars parked there, and that it's a concern of theirs. That I have plenty of parking in the back to serve my building. I think that's a plus for the overall neighborhood. That there are 2 or 3 extra spaces. There'll be 3. You had a live photo of the front. If you eliminate the driveway, which of course I'm going to do, you could get 3 cars parked along in an 80-foot wide lot. Yeah, there'd be one behind the red vehicle and one in front. That's 3 additional spaces that the whole neighborhood would have the ability to use, and is very much needed on this street where there have been a lot of conversions of single family to multi.
And how many spots were there in the back? 12, 10?
11.
11. And that meets the number, correct?
The minimum required is 9.
Right. Thank you.
Of course, it's going to be cheaper for me to do 9 spaces than 11 spaces, but I'm just sort of looking. I have the ability to do it. So just do it.
And that's something we appreciate. If there's one item that's always a hot topic is parking. So that's, anything else, Mr. Zawarski?
No, unless
Any-
you're going to go
any-
over more items, and if I hear something, I'll
Any
comment.
comments, questions? I'll open it up to the planning commission members now at this time. Ms. Cohen.
If you could show your rendering again.
Sure. Let me get it up for you.
Thank you. So one thing Mr. Zawarski mentioned was that he's open to making hip roof instead of the gable roof. The drawings currently show an 8 to 12, and I think you suggested going to a 6 to 12, which would help. I think also the hip roof would help the situation. It's a little bit deceiving on both this drawing and the paper drawings that we have in front of us that the grade is sloping. The side elevations are showing, like a flat lot. And if you should bring this back to us in the future, I'd like to see the difference in grade and how the basement appears and how much of the basement would be exposed. But I think those things would help the building to seem smaller, more closer to that fabric of what's in the neighborhood now. But I do appreciate the stone in the front and the is it vinyl or is it cementitious?
No,
boards?
we were thinking vinyl.
And also the vertical would be vinyl in the front, if you can show him.
Yes. I haven't researched that product, but it could be either or.
Just to add to your comment, Mr. Dvorsky did say that any of the basement that would be exposed would also be stone.
Mhm.
So it would not be the bare.
Right, it's just that the grade is showing on both of
Mhm.
these drawings as level, but it's sloping to the left and also towards the back, I believe.
May I turn around and show the?
Sure.
Public again?
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Cohen?
No, thank you.
Mr. Malozzi, any other questions or
Yes, please.
comments?
Just for clarification, did you state that the mature tree referenced by the forester is not on this property?
Yes, and I think it's bigger than 32 inches. I think it's about 48 inches, but I didn't measure it. It's a big tree, and yes, it overhangs onto my property. I talked to the neighbor and I said, is that a tree that you want to keep, or I'd more than gladly take it down and cover the bill for that, because it's as you could see, it is I don't like to say it, but it's a dirty tree. It does need some cleaning. It does need maintenance. And during the process, I'll go out there and clean up around the base, and of course that broken branch, and talk about trimming like some of the branches to make it a more healthy tree.
Thank you. Just curious.
At this time, I'll open it up to any comments, questions from anyone here in attendance. I'm going to remind each and everyone to try to stay within a 5-minute kind of time frame. Also, there's sign-in sheets up here at the desk. When you're finished giving your comments, just sign in so we have your name for the record, okay? Anyone here tonight? Yes? When you're finished, you can sign in. Introduce yourself, give your name and address for the record, and you begin.
Okay, bear with me here. I apologize. I have a cold. So, good evening. My name is Kirsten Mondillo, and I am the owner of the property at 244 9th Avenue, which is adjacent to the proposed variance site. I am here to respectfully oppose the variance, as this alley is where our children who are here with us ride their bikes and their scooters. They learn to roller skate, and where they sled in their yards where it snows. Neighbors walk their dogs. We garden together. We have kids jumping on the trampoline, running back and forth from all of the yards in between ours, our neighbors down the street who live in the row homes, and up the street as well. They swing on their swing sets. We walk and talk with our neighbors, and we gather informally out behind our houses. This area is not built or zoned for a high volume residential use, and adding 6 multi-family residences, dumpsters, and 11 parking spaces behind the house where my kid plays is not really something that I imagined when I bought my house 5 years ago. I spent 10 years saving up to buy my house because I lived in Allentown because I couldn't afford to live on the west side. So I spent 10 years saving my money, and I finally found the perfect house over on the West End. And I was friends with the neighbors who lived in the house that, I'm sorry, Zawarski, is that the name? Mr. Zawarski purchased. And I anticipated that another family was going to move in there and that, you know, my kid might have somebody else to play with. I did not imagine a parking lot and dumpsters behind my house, which create all kinds of other issues. It's a very small area. I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to come down this lane or this alley, but it's extremely difficult to get a car down there, let alone a trash collector. They don't even come down the alley anymore. They make us put our trash out front because the trash collectors can't come behind the alley. I can't even imagine a fire truck trying to get down the alley if there were, God forbid, a fire in the area. Although the building and the property looks beautiful from the outside, frankly, it's an eyesore in the neighborhood that's otherwise, quiet family residential area. It will permanently alter the residential charm and overall character of our walkable, friendly neighborhood. And a 3-story dwelling will alter our landscape, take away more green space, and will create an eyesore in our quiet West End. There is no unique hardship that justifies ignoring zoning rules, and I would urge the council at this time to protect the neighborhood where our kids play and deny the variance.
Thank you. Again, if you don't mind, sign in. Sir, if you don't mind, come up and give your name and address for the record. Then when you're finished, you can sign it.
My name is Glenn Gnuski. I live at 253 8th Avenue. First of all, that photo is a dirty photo. That dead tree doesn't exist there. The limbs on that tree are clean. And I don't know if Mr. Zawarski understands, but when he did his land survey person stuck the spike right in the middle of the tree. So that means half of that tree is on his property, or his survey was incorrect. I'm just pointing that out. I didn't write anything down because I was only told about this 2 days ago. The building looks beautiful. I expected something from a cyborg like they're doing in Philly. However, I too am concerned about the parking situation. This is a dead end street. It's only 12 to 14 feet wide. How are 2 cars, one going north, one going south, going to pass each other? They can't physically do it. They're showing a picture now with access to 9th Avenue. That's actually a private road. At any time, the person who owns that road could put a gate up, and that's the end of it. He did address the fire suppression, and I'm wondering if there should be a geophysical survey of the land, because I've lived there for 30 years. The mountain's shifting. And if you're going to put a building this big, how's that going to affect the mountain? That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here in attendance? Yes, come on up. Give your name and address for the record. When you're finished, you can sign in.
Hello, my name is Ariel Hatfield. I live at 236 9th Avenue. And in regards to the alleyway, I do own part of the alleyway. That is true that if I wanted to put a gate there, I absolutely would and could. I don't, because I love my neighbors. And I understand that everyone has situations for parking, such as I'm not even able to park in front of my own house anymore. And instead of picking fights with new neighbors that move into apartment buildings or houses that they have turned into apartments, I decide to be the nice neighbor and just let everyone use my alleyway as they please. I am not able at this time to pave that alleyway to make it easier for everyone. I wish I could, but I am a new mom and I just went back to work, and it matters to me that everyone can access that road as they need to. It is not plowed in the wintertime. When it rains, it creates a humongous puddle. The trash truck has gotten stuck to the point where they've slid off of the alleyway and into the grassy area. Yeah, it's not that far away. If you guys want to take a drive there after this and see how tight it is, I think you should see it for yourself. I love my neighbors, even though I'm not always outside to see them. I'm working hard. We've exchanged play sets. It has moved from one house to the other. That's how much we love our kids in that area. And there is no other place for them to play that's right there, safe, where all of us can see them. The roads on either side are public roads and people speed up and down them all the time. And the alleyway is just our safe place for all of them to play. And if you take that away, you're taking away their childhood. And that's what all of us go to work so hard every day to give them. It is a beautiful building, but it just doesn't fit there. This city of Bethlehem is known for its like charm and history and how long it's been here. And this is a very cute neighborhood. And you're just going to stick something new in there just to accommodate a few extra families. It's going to cause a lot of extra noise, a lot of extra garbage, a lot of extra parking, which we don't even have now. We're all parking in our backyards because there's no parking out front. We all ruined our backyards because of no parking. It's a huge problem.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's things I missed. I've never spoken in front of anyone like this before, so I'm very nervous.
No.
I'm sure they'll pick up whatever I left out. We're all on the same page here, and we're not trying to be bad people. It's just we love our little block.
Thank you.
We really, really love
Thank
each
you.
other.
Appreciate it. If you don't mind, put your
Yeah.
name and address or sign in. Over here. Yes.
Hello, my name is John Bonchik. I'm the property owner to the right, 243 8th Avenue. A couple concerns real quick. The tree was brought up, but that's a huge issue. It's 24 foot in circumference, 5 feet up. It's been there over 100 years. I had 2 arborists already look at it. It's a piece of history. I trim it at least once, twice a year. It does grow saplings because it keeps growing and growing and growing. I pick up the branches, I clean up after it. There was a big trunk that he took the picture of that was on his property. I chainsawed that up for him and got rid of it. I really do take care of that tree as best as I can. And then the parking lot situation, putting the retaining wall with the parking lot next to that tree, I'm worried it's going to have some kind of adverse effect on that tree since it is an old tree, but doing any kind of construction like that, I don't trust it. And then another issue is the parking lot. That tree is huge. If you want to pull up a picture, you can look at the branches again. It's just, especially the view from the front of our house, if you're looking straight, if you could pull that view up somehow. Yeah, I mean, the branches are big and they do fall. If there's a storm, branches do fall. And putting a big parking lot there with all those branches there, I don't think that's a good idea at all. I really don't. What else we got? Just the whole notion of just having such a big building in it was a single family home spot. It's such a big building, and the buffer variance too. Really going from 80 to 90 feet. I mean, why can't we just build something that fits in that spot? Why do we have to just keep building these huge? It doesn't even belong there. You know what I mean? So Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Yes, come on up, introduce yourself.
Hi, I printed up some pictures too. I'm Nicole Bonchik, I'm John's wife. Thank you. So I live with him at 243. So I have a lot written down. I'm just gonna go over the highlight points. The property was actually purchased about 9 months ago. The sign went up during Celtic Classic. I based my life around Bethlehem festivals. Sign went up around Celtic Classic, but it was bought sight unseen already, even though people continued to show the house. I got home on the morning of October 21st from a festival in Newport, Rhode Island, and that is the first day I ever met Mr. Zaworski. And I was holding my luggage. I couldn't even put it down. And he kind of went asking me about the tree. It said he was the new neighbor. Didn't say anything about developing it. So I just thought he was moving in. We talked about books since I'm a literature teacher. And that was it. Didn't hear anything except for a certified letter that came and dated November 1st saying that the property is going to be demolished in 45 days. So got that letter. That never happened. And I'm not sure if that was ever approved, but we did get the letter. And lo and behold, the property is still there and the house. This whole time since it was purchased, the grass was not cut until we were leaving for Westchester, Pennsylvania on May 17th, 2025, from the time that he purchased it. So this whole time, the grass was, I mean, there had to be rats, vermin, whatever else going in it. And the bushes still, if you drive by it now, they've never been touched. Okay, so I don't know how we can put faith in someone keeping track of a property this large. If you pull back to the actual diagram or blueprint, and you look at my house from overhead, there it is. There's our basement steps. What am I going to walk out into a wall? I mean, it's ludicrous to me that this even is something that would be considered. So we have that going on too. I guess the biggest problems that I have as far as the variances are, it's black and white to me. There's no hardship here. So if there's no hardship, a variance can't be awarded, right? Plus, it would change the community. It would alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and ordinances exist to ensure responsible development. Okay, so what's the point if we don't actually honor the ordinances to begin with? Under the PA zoning law, you need a unique hardship as well for a variance to be passed. So I'm not opposed to anyone developing there. I just think this is an outrageous plan that doesn't fit. If you look at 241, say it's the center of a clock, and you go around to every house, caddy corner, they're all single homes, 8 of them, except the one directly to the right, which is a half a double. Everybody has sprawling properties, maybe not sprawling, maybe I'm exaggerating, but everybody has their own land. And that house is surrounded by single family homes, with the exception of the double right below. And then if you talk about buffer yards, 1318.23, buffer yard, in case of conflict, the larger yard requirement shall apply. Okay, so the larger yard, not smaller ones, not taking away. So the 90 to 80 makes no sense unless they want to be in our living room, because that's exactly what would happen. They'd be right on top of us. And we've been there 17 plus years. Most of the neighborhood has. We all know each other. Nobody's in favor of this type of construction. Marianne that lived there since 2003. And she redid it. She thought she'd be there forever. She never saw, she'd be rolling in her grave if she even knew this was being presented right now. Because it's hard to find a ranch home in downtown Bethlehem. It's kind of an anomaly. I guess that's pretty much all I have to say. I am worried about the dumpster, that whole possibility. And again, like we said, first of all, Carter Street, and if I'm going over my 5, you can buzz me out. But Carter Street is never plowed. Yes, the city owns it, but we as residents have to shovel if anyone needs to get out of there. It is never plowed. And as we said, down at the bottom, I believe it's called Walden Street, is owned by 2 families. They share the ownership of that. So it's not a throughway. The street is not a so I just don't see how this would be feasible in a property like that. I
Thank
think
you.
that's all I have to say.
I appreciate it if you don't mind signing. I will go back to Mr. Zaworski. That's another thing. I don't believe it was on it might have been mentioned in a comment about Mr. Pfeiffer. Was anything listed there about the garbage area? Normally, when we get into the land development process and the phase of that, that is something that's obviously, required of what was mentioned about the garbage.
So two comments. One was the zoning comment, and that was that this area here appears to be an area for a dumpster. And that if that in fact is the area for the dumpster, then a dumpster enclosure would be required. And then the recycling bureau indicated that they were unclear about how trash and recycling would be picked up, and that the applicant should provide that narrative.
Mr. Zaworski, you're fine as this progresses to address that in particular, especially the recycling component.
Absolutely.
And know that most, if not all, of the projects like this, we do usually require an enclosure, an area just for garbage and garbage pickup. So, anyone else here? Yes, sir.
Hi, folks. Brian Petresky, 228 8th Avenue. Hi, how are you? I've done many of your buildings styles. They're very nice. I've done them for Dominic and Tom Barker. I do the fire alarm systems in them and the sprinkler.
Okay.
I have to ask you this question though. Why would you pick this area to install that type of building?
Because it's zoned for it. It's an allowed use.
Sure, I get that. But why? You're taking a nice neighborhood.
I understand that. There is a huge shortage of housing in the Lehigh Valley. With the projections as to how the population is growing, we're going to become more deficient in supplying housing to all the people that are moving in this area. This will help alleviate at least some of it. If you look at all the different developments and projects that my family has built in the city of Bethlehem and in surrounding communities, they're all projects that I am very, very, very proud of.
I didn't ask you that, sir.
I
I asked you why in this location.
If you could ask some questions here, maybe more towards like the overall building appearance. I don't want to get into a discussion on why he is looking to build there by right. And Counselor, if I'm wrong, please jump in. It is a by right rule. So if you can try to avoid the
Right, but you've heard everybody else.
understood. That's why we're here, sir. This is something, and if you heard me in the beginning of the meeting, we want to do in this order a sketch plan review. It allows everyone to come in and give their feedback. I heard a lot of great things tonight, in particular, the alley situation stands out with the tree and whatnot, but to question why, I think his answers are valid to continue to ask questions geared towards us. Thank you.
To take what everyone else said, when you look at the parking area, I understand that he needs parking and his dumpster will need a fence around it and be contained. I understand all that. But everything there in the 30 years that I've lived there used to be single family homes where everybody knew everybody. Most of them now, except for the fellow there, they're all now rentals. So when you say about the parking on the street, now across the street at Liebert and 8th Avenue, I believe it was approved for him to put a 2-unit in there. So now we're going to have another apartment directly across the street from yours on the corner lot of Liebert. What was that? I thought I heard somebody say.
Yeah,
something.
I just said,
Oh, it was you.
wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so that's our understanding that that was part of that too.
I'm not aware of that either, and honestly, we're focusing on this project. So
Okay. Well, I vote for disapproval on it.
I would. Is there anyone else?
There was going to be another apartment building on the corner at the end of the alleyway.
Right, that's Liebert and 8th Avenue.
I wasn't sure which.
No, 9th Avenue.
Right where they're showing now.
9th Avenue.
That's
Yeah.
vacant lot.
That's been vacant.
And then if you go to the 3 o'clock from there, right there at Liebert.
Mr. Piper, are you aware of anything at that corner lot that's been, an application was put in?
So we can start with this one. The property owner sought approval to add a second dwelling onto this property for the purpose of their brother to live in the other house while they continued to live in this. Where that is in terms of approval process, I don't know. I was zoning administrator at the time, but that has since been handed off to others. This project actually was a project that came in when I first started here, so it's probably 5 or 6 years old. It did have a single family dwelling on it. Obviously, that's been removed, and the developer was going to build a series of townhomes that would sit right in that area. Obviously, that has not yet been built.
Okay, so nothing formally has been put in for that.
And just to be clear, that required some, let me finish, sir. Sorry, let me finish. Just to be clear, that required some level of relief, and that relief has since expired. So whatever else is going to go in there, it's going to require some level of review, unless, of course, they do a by right plan.
And I'll pick up with that. Thank you, Mr. Piper, and thank you for your comments. Much appreciated. I would also implore the residents here today. Mr. Scamilio mentioned his hearing coming up, and so you're able to attend that as well. And anytime there is a sketch plan review, again, this is what we want. This is healthy. This is dialogue that we need to hear. As it pertains to the variances, we don't, number one, we don't have to act on that in any way, shape, or form tonight. And quite honestly, I'll say it now, I don't feel comfortable doing that in a sketch plan review because I always feel it steps on the zoning board's toes. If it was a land development plan, certainly we would pass along to the zoning board a yay or a nay. But I don't want to speak for the rest of the members. I don't plan on acting on any of those variances tonight because that's not our job. So I would implore you to attend that zoning hearing board and say exactly what you said here tonight, because certainly they're making the decision when it comes to that. I think Mr. Zaworski presented his by right project with a lot to chew on from the people here tonight and from us. Certainly, he makes some valid points about housing issues. Certainly, there was one brought up, Mr. Piper, on that back lot of what we call an ADU being built to help a family member live on there. And I think the nature of where we're at right now, not only in the city of Bethlehem, but across the country, is you're going to start to see a lot more of that occurring. Something has to change. And so from a housing shortage standpoint, certainly I get it. But by no means are we in any position to grant the variances, and we're not here to grant approval for this project. We're here tonight to provide feedback, and I really believe we had some healthy dialogue in here. So, Planning Commission members, anything else? Comment? Mr. Zaworski, any other questions or comments from you?
Yeah, one of the things I heard was about the tree and about the retaining wall that's near the tree. Well, that is nothing more than curbing like that goes out in the street. It's 2 feet high in total from below grade to top. 6 to 8 inches of concrete will be above the ground. And that's all that you'll see. And then the balance, 16 inches, will be below grade. Now, if you're worried about, as you're digging that to install the curb, maybe you want to waive just on that side. Maybe waive the the curbing for the parking lot, just on that side.
You mean
So it
zoning,
wouldn't
zoning,
damage,
the,
so it
zoning
wouldn't-
the way that.
So
Yes,
it wouldn't damage the tree.
And
but
that's something
I
Mr.
don't- I don't-
Scamilio can bring up at his appeal process with the zoning board. The one thing I will, and again, I don't want to speak for any of the planning commission members here. Out of all the discussion tonight, the one that's really resonating with me is the alleyway, and it certainly is. When as the process comes through, you know, zoning is going to have to make some decisions there with that, and I hear you're open to possibly the height with different roof types, etc. You're open to maybe looking at some type of entrance and exit way along the sides. I don't know, but obviously the biggest concerns that I was hearing tonight was the alleyway.
In some of the design phases that Mr. Zaworski was going through, and I think he mentioned at the beginning, you could seek relief and move the building to the rear and then put parking in the front. But we think that does more detriment to the character of the neighborhood than the way he has it planned now, where the building is up front on street side and then the parking in the, closer to the alley. And
It certainly is an option.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to sound redundant, but there's nothing etched in stone here tonight. So certainly that's an option. And I know there have been some other projects in the past where we have allowed through zoning to allow parking in the front. So anything else, Mr. Pfeiffer?
Nothing at this time.
Yeah, I have one more comment.
Please.
I'd like to discuss it with
Go
the
ahead.
attorney.
Mr. Malozzi at this time, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess appreciate the public comment, and to Mr. Molosky's point, we understand this proposal's in your neighborhood. We all live in the city of Bethlehem in different neighborhoods too, so can definitely understand your concerns. The things that we heard brought up were you feeling that it's out of character with the neighborhood. It is by right, so the owner can, under the zoning, build this. He does need two pieces of relief from the zoning hearing board, which is not us, but the buffer yard and the lot width. So that would be something they need to get separate. The discussion about reducing heights, reducing the roof, shrinking that building up, were discussed. So these are comments we're sending with the owner to consider for if this does come back as a full land development application. Number of parking spaces exceeds what's required, so that could be a plus to keep cars off the street, or a minus if there were spaces lost and then there's more buffering in the back along Carter Street. So these are all things that were great to hear from the neighbors. In the end, we're going to have to act on whether or not it meets the criteria in our subdivision land development ordinance. So it's about making this as good as it can possibly be for the neighbors that are already there. You're investors in the neighborhood too. We certainly understand that. So if there's an opportunity for dialogue with the neighbors and a discussion, I understand you have an idea of what you want to do with your property, but we've heard the neighbors' comments as well. So this is a sketch plan phase, as Chairman Molosky pointed out. Hopefully this is all being collected for the applicant's consideration. Still some zoning relief required as it stands right now. The other thing I wanted to point out is there was a mention of potentially having connecting sidewalk from front to back, which I also personally would ask the applicant to consider. And then anything that can be done to shrink up the building with reducing roof, floor heights, going with the existing topography, because I guess it's pretty good grade out there. Would be the kind of things I'd like to see if this does come back as a full land development application. Thank you.
Any other comments?
none. No, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Pfeiffer, general discussion items, anything in reference to the upcoming agenda items?
Yes, thank you. I'll try to be brief. In your packet is the upcoming PC agenda items. The first item, 405 Selfridge, 406, 412 Jackson, that plan was recorded today. Therefore, that will be removed from this agenda. Two down below that, 330 East 4th Street. The engineer for that indicated that they intended to submit comments back from the first letter review. So it could be on your August 14th agenda. Flipping over to the next page, we have a sketch plan for Eaton Avenue. That actually was going to be on tonight. The applicant has since withdrawn that and has stated that they intend to resubmit that sketch plan. So if they do in a timely fashion, that will be on your August 14th agenda. The High Hotel is actually a re-review, so it won't come back to you, just to be clear. On the third page, we have a couple more sketch plans. These all came in and will most likely be heard on the 14th of October. The sketch plan for 1625 Glenwood Street, that is a project that is almost identical in scope to what you just heard, sketch plan-wise. The sketch plan for Calypso Avenue, this actually came before you at one point, and the applicant was denied their zoning relief to put up a 12-unit building. They have since come back with 3 sets of twins as a sketch plan. And the last one is a rather large project. This is on Township Line Road. There's no numeric address. It's commonly referred to as the Gold Track. A majority of this tract is located within Bethlehem Township and not in the city, but a portion thereof would be developed as single-family detached dwellings. If all of these come to fruition, you may have 5 cases on your August 14th agenda or something
what do we-
shortly thereof.
And I always bring this up. I know you're aware. I know Matt's aware. We're always aware. How does that coincide with our festival that's held here? It's not, right?
You will not be impacted.
So we are changed. So that August meeting, I think we changed that years ago, will never fall on Music Fest, correct?
Correct.
And Music Fest starts when? First, and it's to August 10th. Okay, I just want to clarify that. I know I always bring it up, but I'm showing my age here. When I was here 14 years ago, we always had to deal with that, but I'm glad that's fixed. Good.
So, and just one other comment,
Yes.
for those of you who like to tune in from home or maybe even attend in person, both Kathy and I will be presenting to City Council on the 15th, which is this coming Tuesday, the proposed changes to the subdivision land development ordinance.
And are those available now online?
Yes.
So on the city website, right?
Correct.
And that was done 2 months ago, I think we had.
This is 2 months.
Might have been a little bit
More. April, yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else.
Ms. Fletcher, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. Motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming out. Good night.
One quick question. I believe you've made aware when the.
Yes, that's why